Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Podfluxxx, episode 34. You may have noticed that we did not put out a new episode last weekend. And Ricky, the reason for that is that children are filthy germ magnets and
Yes.
they just spread uh, disease and just unwellness in
On
general,
wellness.
right? So
This is true, yes.
basically, like uh last week, early in the week, my son Austin, he had a little bit of a cold, which is no big deal because he's uh like negative immune to anything.
Mhm.
He gets sick like 17 times a year.
Uh,
His nose just perpetually leaks. And so he was down a few days, and I was like, no big deal. And then last Saturday night, we went out for my wife's father's birthday, and we're sitting in this restaurant, and I was like, man, it's a little stuffy in this restaurant, right?
mhm.
And then Sunday, I woke up on the day in which we normally would record,
Mm.
and I was dead to the world for like the next 3 days. So here we are, a week later. I'm going to give you a little behind the curtain here. I haven't really watched any wrestling in like the last week and a half, except for what I've seen on Twitter. And there's a
So
lot
you've
that's
done
been
as
going on,
much,
and I feel very, very behind. What was that?
yeah. So you've done as much research as I've done. Then,
Yeah, normally I'm the research guy,
yeah.
and I'm a little behind, but I'm going to blame the children germ uh, spreading. How are you?
Got it. Good. Reyes had like a little stomach bug the other day. Nothing crazy, just like for a day. Kept telling me,
Right. So then, how long
um,
did you shit water for?
yeah, no, it wasn't one of those. Luckily, he just like my stomach feels weird. I'm like, well, go poop. Then he did,
Yeah.
and he's like, yeah, it doesn't feel too good. And I was like, all right, stay home from school. I don't care. I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
So
Stay home from school and away from me.
yeah,
Thanks.
exactly. Closed his door, and that was it.
Yeah. Oh
So
God. They don't tell you when you have children that they're nobody is like, hey, by the way, these things are gonna bring home just all this stuff that you don't want
yeah,
and you don't want to deal with.
yeah,
And then it
exactly.
happens and you're like, I should have known. We were just ill informed.
Yeah, yeah, right. They forgot that chapter.
Right. So this week we missed out on a lot of wrestling here, but there is a lot to talk about, right? So
Hmm.
I want to start with what everyone is talking about, and I feel like is the only real thing that's made actual news in wrestling over the last 3 years. So here we are again talking about CM Punk. Now, did you see CM Punk's return to Monday Night Raw promo?
I saw like clips of it. Yeah. Mhm. They saved that for the very end, right? Like that
Okay.
was like the last thing on Raw.
Dude, I'm wondering if they had some type of a timing issue because
Mm.
they got him out there with like 8 minutes of show.
Oh,
You know what I mean? And you know that they're not gonna let him do like the 40-minute
right.
long-winded promo that he did when he first got to AEW.
Yeah.
But you had to think that they like intended to give him more than 6 minutes and it just
Yeah.
didn't work out. So the context of the promo
Mhm.
A lot of people in the wrestling media and the wrestling space had a lot of problem with. What did you think about it?
Again, I didn't see a lot of it. I the clip that obviously went around a lot was the snarky, smartass friends line
Yeah,
that I knew, because even WWE's Twitter didn't air that part. They
right.
cut it off, and of course all the other nerds were talking about it. But I really didn't hear a lot of it. I mean, he's talks about being back and growing and or whatever, and then hit that line at the very end, which was, I'm sure, his asshole way of getting something in to some sort of little jab at those idiots across the street or whatever. So,
Right.
but other than that, I
What
really didn't see much of it.
what did like I don't have the problem with the promo that a lot of people have. Right? A lot of people were like, he needed to say something. He needed to address it or, whatever. Like the problem I had with the promo was like there was no intention uh for anything made beyond the
Right,
fact of, hey, I'm CM Punk and I'm here.
right.
Like I would have liked hey, I'm CM Punk, I'm here, I'm gonna be on Raw
Yeah.
and I'm gonna kick the shit out of this guy because I want to main event WrestleMania.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what I
that's
mean?
kind of what I expected it to be, for him to address his direction, I guess, or his intentions. I think we all know what his ultimate goal is, which is, he's publicly said a number of times that he wanted a main event WrestleMania. So now he gets one of those nights. I'm sure he will. Now that WrestleMania is 2 nights, so we got room for everybody. Um, but
Which
yeah,
now
what?
that ages the remember when he said to MJF that you can go and main event one night of a buy one get one
Yeah,
extravaganza?
yeah, exactly.
Right.
And yeah, and a lot of people just started pulling out those old AEW where he was kind of venting, kind of getting stuff off his chest or taking little jabs at WWE, and now they're kind of like, oh, now he's there, doing like that particular line, you know, um, came out a couple times, but uh, I mean, there's also no need to rush anything too with Punk, right? Because I think he even missed an entire week of TV the next week, possibly, or at least missed
Mhm.
Raw. Um, so I think that they know he's either not gonna wrestle until the Rumble, or they're
Which
really
he
gonna
shouldn't.
build. Yeah, but they could also really build up possibly to a match before that, just to hit like a good number, just because. I mean, uh
Right.
you know what I mean, like so there was really no need to set up anything particularly right then and there, obviously, like, because then it'll get old so fast. You figure if he would have gotten said something about somebody uh immediately, then next week, you could imagine creative thinking. All right, well, now we got to get them face to face, and then in 2 or 3 weeks, we have them in a tag match, with somebody
Right.
against somebody. So I think that they're trying to uh, play the long game here with him. Probably thinking about maybe a Rumble match, or possibly just before the Rumble to set up advertisement for the Rumble. Like maybe he does a match or tag match prior to Rumble, which sets up a Rumble match a couple weeks out, few weeks out, maybe even. Um, and then hopes of popping a number when they can on Raw, possibly, and then going into Rumble with something big, which will ultimately get them pointed in some sort of direction for WrestleMania. Like whomever it's gonna
Right.
be, or whomever can interfere, whatever. But it'll be something where Rumble will lead him directly towards WrestleMania, obviously.
I like him not having to say
Yeah.
anything about AEW in his
Right.
promo. Because first of all, why?
Yeah. No.
And
Yeah.
but the real reason why I like it is because now you've left the space for somewhere down the line for an opponent of his to take a shot at him and say, you went to go play in the minor leagues or
Right.
whatever because you were afraid to come up here
Yeah.
where the professionals are,
Right.
and it's something that he can touch on and use uh as a vehicle to get someplace else in something meaningful. You know what
Yeah.
I
I'm
mean?
assuming.
Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I agree 100%. I think that is the Seth Rollins CM Punk match that, uh,
Right.
I because he's the one that kind of voiced that no Punk thing and WWE, um, you know, and I'm positive that, not to burst any bubbles, but that this has all been planned and worked out. So I'm hoping that they start to use some of that, um, for that, to feel that, because the way the angle is, it needs to get personal. It needs, this particular angle should be the only one that does any of that, where they're kind of pulling back that curtain a little bit, just because that's what the fans would expect from this particular angle between them two. Because they never did it with Cody, right? Like, they that wasn't, um, part of the angle at all. I think Cody and Seth was a little more,
Right.
uh, about Dusty,
Yeah.
who kind of helping Seth so much, and kind of, having high hopes for him, and not as much for his own son, type thing. They played into that more than they did you're coming from somewhere else type of thing, to where there is no, because Punk's such a much bigger star, there is no way to, not acknowledge it, right? I mean, you have to at some point. You don't have to put it over, but you do have to acknowledge that in some way. And that doesn't need to be like drawn out in a big way. It just needs to be even a quick jab, and it just let that marinate and let the fans take it where they want it. But it will, I'm sure, at some point with those two.
Now, did you hear any of his promo from SmackDown the other night?
No, nothing from there. No.
Okay, there was some type of, I guess, interaction with Kevin Owens, and then CM Punk did an in-ring promo where he said something to the effect of, I don't know how comfortable I feel working with somebody who runs around punching people in the face backstage. But the line died an
Oh.
abysmal death.
Oh God.
Nobody in the building got it,
Uh.
which I
So
want to bring to
so
the
they.
next part of our debate is is AEW not as mainstream as us inside the bubble seem to think it is.
It's absolutely not.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. It's absolutely not as mainstream. Uh. That, again, only if you're a wrestling fan do you know about AEW, and it's very similar to uh when do you remember when Matt Hardy was coming back from the Edge thing in like
Yes.
06 or 05, whatever that was, uh
Right.
where he shouted out like, I'll be at Ring of Honor or ROH or whatever, like on TV, when security was pulling him back. It wasn't because Matt Hardy was in a a smaller promotion that got that pop. It was because it was Matt Hardy going after Edge for the fact that what him and Lita had done to him. You know, it was a revenge thing. So obviously it's different. It's a different story. I understand that, but the idea that AEW is even WWE fans don't even know AEW exists. I'm sure, like general fans. I'm talking about like just people, you know, regular people that might watch wrestling on Monday nights or might watch SmackDown. They don't know because AEW has killed itself really because of how they pander to their own audience as opposed to building an audience, not even trying to steal an audience. They should just be focusing on telling simple stories that will have people talking about what happened on wrestling and that they have to follow it along. But they don't do that.
Yeah.
They do the dream match thing. They do the, you know, and only those fans of those people know that that's a dream match. Like who says Omega and Vikingo was a dream match? Only hardcore wrestling fans think it is, right? And in every state, yeah, no, exactly. But that's what I'm saying. Like in every state, we're finding out there's around 3,000 hardcore wrestling fans in each state because those are the only ones going to Dynamite on a weekly basis. You know, so Lord knows they've, you know, there's only so much of that they care and follow. So the AEW remarks and stuff like that is not going to get big reactions. And maybe like in a Philadelphia or New York City, maybe, you know, obviously Chicago.
In a smart market.
Yeah, right. A market like that. Exactly. It's not going to get it in Boise, Idaho. You know, Chattanooga doesn't care. You know what I'm saying? It's like these kind of remarks need to be saved for those type of fan bases. And I don't think WWE is going to allow it to linger too much because of the fact that then WWE is bringing attention to them, and that's not what we're in this for.
And you know what? There's no need now because he dipped his toes in the water with it on Friday night.
Yeah.
And it got over like a balloon made out of rocks. So, you know, now you've taken the temperature on it. You had a full building. I forgot where they were, but they had a full building and nobody knew what the hell he was talking about. Right. So it's basically WWE fans there who remember CM Punk for 10 years ago and are looking at the TV going, oh man, this guy just came out of hiding.
Right.
Like they just let him out of the witness protection program. Like they may not even know he was over there.
Yeah, and WWE guys, WWE guys and office people and stuff, they're in such a WWE bubble, they have no choice but to be, you know, that they probably don't really know which way to direct that anyways, you know, and you know, it's just they have so
Bruce
much.
Pritchard probably had no idea what the hell he was talking about.
Oh yeah, but that's exactly what I'm saying. Shit like that, like people like that, even Triple H knows better, like than to even, you know, want to bring anything like that up. Like, you know, it's kind of it's so AEW is so petty that you can't even use it in any way to take a shot at somebody else because you look like the lesser person just bringing it up. You know, the whole point of having CM Punk now, the whole point, the whole business of this is directed to filling up a stadium back-to-back weekends for WrestleMania 40. Like that's all WWE's intentions. That's all WWE's motive right now. And that's CM Punk's, you know, intention as well. Like I bet he would I can imagine Punk thinking, I'm going to headline, let's say Saturday night. And his intention is going to be to fill that bitch up so full on Saturday and hoping that there's less people on Sunday. Like I could see him thinking like, all right, they're going to give me the Saturday,
Right.
you know, the new kid. Okay, cool. And he's going to make that his bitch, you know, he's going to make it a point that the reactions on Saturday will be bigger than Sundays, you know, because I can't see them not putting Roman on Sunday. He deserves it, you know. We're all assuming that once everything gets lined up,
Right.
he'll be that Sunday night main event like he normally is, you know.
So. Going in, I mean, obviously we've got a lot of time to develop here before WrestleMania, but you got to think you're doing Cody and Roman and Seth and Punk, right?
I'm guessing those are the matches. Yeah.
That would be the direction you would go. Yeah. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's definitely no one's
talk.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we're on a little bit of a
Yeah.
delay here. We're having an issue. Go
Sorry.
ahead, take it. What you were going to say?
No, I mean, there's just nobody higher than Cody on that other side, you know. I know everyone's like, you know, wish list is to have LA Knight, but I mean, I don't see it. I don't see it. I've never really gotten it, like why everyone's so, when he's so over, like you were the one that kept telling me like, this guy's over, this guy's over. And when I watched his match, when I watched the reactions, I'm like, they're big. I mean, I don't know. Like when you tell me someone's getting a big reaction, I think glass shattering reaction, right? And that's the measure to it, you know. I think that Punk has generated enough interest in himself these past few years, obviously. Oh shit. You got me now?
Just make your make your point about LA Knight again.
Oh, I just didn't really see I don't see how he was so over. Like to me, it wasn't like as big as Cody or other guys. So I mean, I'm going with Roman and Cody, and hopefully for Cody to take it, but I don't know.
Right. It's funny now because like the landscape has changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now that you've got Punk in, the landscape is very, very different. Somebody's going to fall by the wayside. That person is obviously going to be LA Knight because he can't possibly amount to the same star power, right?
Right.
You've been building Cody like this for 2 years. You're not going to bump him down. CM Punk, you have a megastar just walk back in your front door. You're not going to put him on the back burner for LA Knight. I do think it's interesting that they just started this Shinsuke Cody Rhodes feud, I guess, to carry us into the Rumble.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I don't like it. To get behind a good Nakamura match, you need to have a wrestler that can wrestle a little different style than Cody does. I'm not a big Cody fan when it comes to the bell ringing. He's just too like watered down, generic uh, wrestler guy. So it's just that it's just going to get us through. He's a heel coming off a run with Seth for the title, so supposedly he brings value in that way, and it'll just get us to the Rumble. So I'm not interested in it at all.
Right. All right. let's switch gears here a little bit. We're gonna get into a little AEW. Have you been following any of the AEW just shenanigans, gossip, Twitter, anything? Seen anything lately?
Yeah, like I was following a little bit of the,
So
Bryan, the tournament and the Bryan Danielson, uh, I don't know, I guess rise to power there, we can call. Looks like Bryan's got a whole lot more input, uh, with everything that goes on behind the scenes. Also, I guess this is good for their fans to have this type of tournament because it's basically the G1 tournament where everyone wrestles everyone, and the big money matches get to headline the events where with no story, with no backstory to them, strictly, this guy is really awesome against this really awesome guy to have a really awesome match. And yay, us, we get this. The thing about it is when you do the G1, they're not first off, it's an established tournament that has developed huge stars in Japan, along with, their supporting cast was always top, American talent from either, WCW or the NWA, whatever, or, WWF at the time, back in the day. But I guess this is what they like, and 3,000 people every night will show up to watch it, and it'll end. When it ends, that was the whole point of New Japan having the G1, was to kind of crown a new top guy. That was going to be the guy you were going to go with, or the most over guy that year, whatever it was. But, who knows what the fuck they'll do with the winner of this is supposed to be a champion of some kind. And then just have another belt, and in another month no one will fucking care because they don't know what they're doing.
What I'm curious about with this Continental Classic, right? So you want to have a tournament, they want to have something here, the likes of, just like you were saying, like the G1, right?
Right.
So, but you already have that Owen Hart tournament.
Oh, yeah.
Where the winner of that tournament gets a belt. That belt never gets defended.
Right.
The winner of this tournament is going to get 3 belts, right? Now,
of course.
Do we have this tournament again next year?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
But what does the winner get next year? Because somebody's already going to have the 3 belts.
6 belts.
So is this just were they basically, were they like, oh shit, we need to do something, and then somebody came up with this because Tony already had another belt made? Or, was this a like in case of emergency break glass belt? Like it just, what's the long term, because you can't have this tournament next year and take the belt away, or the belts away from the person who already has them, and give them to the new tournament winner. Right?
Well,
and I assume that's why, like, the G1 tournament doesn't lead to a G1 belt.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes, and no. The original G1 was just the IWGP tournament, which was the International Wrestling Grand Prix tournament, and they did get the belt. Right. And it wasn't defended, and then it started to become a belt that they would defend. So they shot themselves in the foot by, yes, creating a new belt for no fucking reason, No one cares about any of their fucking belts. So, yes, like they did it because they're idiots instead of just saying, "Hey, you'll be the Continental Classic winner, and you'll go right into Final Resolution in the main event to challenge for the AEW titles." What they should have done, and give them
Right.
like a nice little plaque or maybe like a medallion or something, a nice pin for their shirt. Uh,
Here's your cup.
Something simple. But of course, they had to go make a new belt because everyone gets one in AEW. So yeah, they're idiots. They fucked it all up before they could even make it something to fuck up. They've already, like they do everything else.
It's it's an odd thing that they're doing over there. But you touched on Bryan Danielson before and his new rise to power in the locker room of AEW. Something like that. Like it had come out a few weeks back. We didn't discuss it at the time, but it came out a few weeks back that he was right. He was the head of the disciplinary committee that ultimately decided to fire CM Punk, right? So basically, Tony Khan faded the heat from himself
Oh
onto
yeah.
one of his top guys, right? Who is
Oh yeah.
universally loved, but now it just seems like, first of all, should active wrestlers be deciding the fate of other active wrestlers? That seems like a major conflict of interest, especially if somebody's in maybe, the spot you want to be,
Right.
having the matches you want to have, wearing the hardware that you want to hold, earning the checks that you'd like to earn, right?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's a big no-no and always has been for those obvious reasons for years, where the only way that was ever accepted was by having no choice when that wrestler was the owner, like a Vern Gagne situation. I think Vern didn't he beat Nick Bockwinkel in his very last match and retired as the AWA World Heavyweight Champion for like the 10th time or something like that. I mean, that's
Yes.
yeah. So, and Bryan, um, maybe it's because Bryan is so loved that Tony thought, well, this can't really hurt you, right? Everyone likes you, and I don't want to be not liked. So we'll make it you. I'm sure it was Bryan who said, look, Punk, for whatever reason, Punk was, okay, so this and that happened. Punk could have stopped it by not being upset and not being a hothead, but he knows Punk just as good as anybody else that's, was there in those Ring of Honor days. And he knows he's a hothead. And yeah, maybe that fire gets put out then and there if you keep him around, but it's going to come back. So, I mean, now it's WWE's issue or whatever to deal with. But yeah, Bryan being in charge or having more stroke in the back and say is not good. However, he's already made it public that he's looking to find his way out anyways. So by him working less, it's less stress on him. He's already a made guy. No one's going to get more over than him at this point. I mean, as far as like what he can do in the ring, he's untouchable there. So, realistically, it should be a bad thing. But in this particular case, I don't see it as a bad thing because Bryan's made it known that he's ready to be done with it. And he's so over that, he can lose every night and still get the reactions that he does. to those fans. Again, those are the fans again that know, right? So they would never look down on him for losing. They'll look at it like, oh, he's such a nice guy. He lost again. Like those are how the fans see Bryan's losses, you know?
Yeah, I think, I think having him in a position of power can hurt, though, creatively, because we've seen that Bryan Danielson has the tendency to creatively skew silly.
Yes.
His work is great and his violence and his intensity, but if I feel like if there's something that maybe like tickles him a little bit, he's going to
Yes.
think that it tickles everybody and he's going to
Yes.
want to do it, right?
Yes, 100%.
I also think that if there's somebody there that is upset with the Bryan Danielson rise to power, it is probably Chris Jericho, right? Because Chris Jericho has been trying to be the earworm on Tony Khan for the last 5 years, and he's used to getting whatever he wants to do to fly. You know what I mean? So you got to wonder if a guy like that is worried that there's going to be somebody there that goes, that's kind of stupid. Maybe we shouldn't. Right?
I mean, yeah, I guess to some degree. I just feel like Bryan would rather ask Jericho as opposed to tell Jericho what's going on. That's just my opinion, though. I think he has enough respect for Jericho to at least be like, "Hey, man, we were thinking about doing this. What do you think?" And then Jericho figure out a way to make it less good and more Jericho. So I don't necessarily think that. I also feel like with newer guys that are going to come in with all these names that are available coming up, he's probably going to let a lot of them call their own shots, and that might be good. I mean, for a lot of them, it'll be a good thing because they'll have that control, which is that's one thing that wrestlers, I think we all kind of enjoy, is at least being able to call your own shot. Hey, I can do something here. I can do something with this guy. I mean, it's funny because when I watch or see anything or hear about issues in the AEW, I think back to like us in VPW, how it went from really bad to really, really good, and what that process looked like and felt like. So I can relate to a lot of what's going on. But I remember thinking one day that we all wanted the same thing, and that was to have VPW be the place to be because we were all there. Right. And I feel like that is what's lacking in AEW, where they're using AEW to catapult them to WWE at a very high level. So there's more selfish attitudes in AEW because you can tell by the way they wrestle. They wrestle for themselves. They wrestle for their 7 minutes that they're out there for them, because there's no real leader back there, And Bryan, although he's, like you said, he's awesome in the ring and everything else, like, he's just not a dickhead. Like, and he's just not an asshole. And he's not going to tell guys, no, you're going to do it this way because this is what needs to get done for the show. This is where we need to go to get this person here. He's not that asshole, He's kind of, like you said, ha ha ha, yeah, well, can you try this? okay, just do it your way, because he's thinking, well, fuck it, like I don't care, we're, in his mind it's like, oh, there's 2,500 people
Right.
out there, do whatever the fuck you want, and they don't have no stake in the company, so he's getting a check regardless. He's not going to go home and stress about this shit. He's not going to stay up all night worrying about this shit. He's going to giggle and laugh all the way to the bank, thinking this idiot's going to sign me for another 3 years after this, and I won't have to leave my couch, most of the year, 300 days out of the year. So, who the fuck cares really? Like, that's a sinking ship now. That all those guys that have any qualities to them or understand the business in any way should just do what they're doing, get their exposure, and increase their value, because no one's going to tell them no. And, once you get off it, understand that, okay, now I have an opportunity to go there to WWE and really do it. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. I love Bryan and everything, but he's also one of those guys you can kind of tell, like, he's definitely checked out. He's just there, treading water and doing whatever, and, basically just waiting for
He's there to have a nice time and wrestle fun matches that he wants to wrestle.
that he wants to do. Yeah, everything that he wants to do. He was a very similar Bryan. I mean, maybe in Ring of Honor when he was the world champion, he kind of that's how he was in the back. He was like, he was kind of always laughing and goofing off, and then I liked being around him more when it was closer to bell time for his match, because that's when I could, feel his passion come out, for what he was about to do. And I think he's just one of those guys that he doesn't love the whole wrestling business. He loves that when that bell rings and he's in that ring until that bell rings, and then he leaves, and then he's just, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, but I love the whole wrestling everything, so, although we had fun and goofed off and stuff in VPW, like, you guys all got to see me on show day, and that was kind of every day for me. Like, Monday morning when I got up, I went to the gym with that same mentality of like, I got work to do, for wrestling, for the next week, for these coming matches, and so I was a little more, I did take it personal, and they tell you not to, but they tell you a lot of things, but sometimes you can't help it. I just don't feel like, Bryan's heart is not in AEW. I think obviously his greatest accomplishments were in WWE. I think he would be a different Bryan Danielson backstage if he was in WWE, honestly. And like a lot of guys are, like CM Punk is. I mean, he's not going to pull none of that bullshit there. He's not, I mean, I like the guy too, but, facts are facts. Like, that's a different world. It's a whole different animal. It demands your respect, it's the same thing like us goofing off, doing our thing in VPW. We did our job well. But when I'm in the back in a New Japan show, you're ready to throw up because you're scared, you're nervous, you don't want to fail, you feel like you'll let everybody down and then some if you do. It's almost a life or death type of feeling when you are dead set on.
You're not hiding a John Morrison card in somebody else's back.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's just different, and I don't know. I mean, I guess it's good for short term, and it's good for Bryan if he's looking to stick around after his next couple of years or whatever, because it gives him a position. But he's going to really have to, like, Tony's going to have to put some sort of incentive for him, right? Like, if I was Tony, I would say, look, man, if you're going to be on my side, on my team, and you're my go-to guy, I'm going to give you $1 million a year. Okay. And you don't have to take bumps. Okay, cool. But if this pay-per-view hits this many buys, I'll give you, like quarterly bumps, to where you have an option to
Yeah.
make,
Yeah,
up
you
to
got to
5 million.
incentivize it.
Yeah, make up to 5 million in a year if the company does well. So now Bryan's like, okay, if these idiots don't shut the fuck up and do what I'm telling them to, then this pay-per-view is going to bomb, or no one's going to buy the next pay-per-view, or the house shows are going to be shit, or TV's going to be shit, if we get another, increase from Time Warner,
Right.
you get X amount of that, yeah, like he should really start thinking about doing stuff like
Right.
that to save his company,
He's got to make it so the need to put asses in seats, viewers on couches, and pay-per-view money in pockets is everybody's
Yes.
responsibility.
Yes.
That
Right.
everybody is accountable if they don't show up, if they don't buy,
Mm-hmm.
if they don't watch. Now, we haven't talked about it in a couple of weeks, so I wanted to bring up the At World's End. I just had it a second ago. Hang on a second. Give me a minute. WrestleTix. WrestleTix is reporting that At World's End is basically almost sold to the capacity of their setup. So they are setting up for, I believe, 8,000. I got it right here. They're setting up for 8,441. And they have sold 7,037, which we talked about the renovations, the new Nassau Coliseum. So, like, I'd say like 8,500 is probably a legitimate wrestling setup sellout there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, like, this is the exact size building that they should be running for a pay-per-view.
Right.
And they should be running venues a little smaller than this for television.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. I would imagine that.
Go ahead.
I would imagine that the venues that are bigger for TV have been booked far in advance.
Yes.
That's what I'm going with. I'm assuming that, and they're just scaling them back because they know that it's just not happening for them. So for future events, they've got to be starting to pick up those smaller, like civic center style type of venues and stuff like that. So I mean, this is again, if I were Tony Khan, I would look to either try to restructure, or everyone that comes in from this year on, their contracts are, like I was saying, some sort of incentive based type of style contract. However they can figure that out. But um, that if the company isn't doing well, which it can't possibly be doing well, they have to start changing up something somehow. Need to
Size.
make, yeah, building size obviously will be better next year, because I can't imagine them thinking that Dynamite does anything better than 5,000 people anymore.
Right. I've also seen that apparently Meltzer or his ilk were reporting that the ticket sales for the WWE Elimination Chamber were not good. And then apparently the building in Australia was like, we've sold 30,000 tickets. So they've got 30,000 tickets sold for this building in Australia for Elimination Chamber in February. WWE is a juggernaut right now on a level that has not been seen since the Attitude Era.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. They're hitting like Attitude Era type, like house shows and TV. The money that's coming in is just, it's got to be. They're getting it from all angles too, because like when I stop and think about, man, their business is good because house shows are going up. Like when you go to the tickets, the Twitter handle that we follow, every house show that they've had for past events, they're kind of beating by like thousands, of tickets.
Yep.
So, and then I stopped one day and I was thinking like, what's that look like with merchandise, like from around the world, because that's how do you even measure that? Like that money has to be just constantly coming in. Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, like and it's almost unfathomable, right?
Yeah.
The ticket sales, the concessions, the merchandise, the parking, the meet and greets, the on sales, like they've just got to be the TV rights. I'm still interested to see where Raw is going to end up.
Yeah, for sure.
NXT is going to be ending up on CW. They had CM Punk on NXT the other night, and he was like, I might come here. And it's like, they could. That would be great, by the way, if he went to NXT and we just had an entire generation of CM Punks coming forward. Could you imagine that?
Yeah, that would be fun.
Just out in the ring, but they were all just assholes. Like, that'd be incredible. So, what are you looking forward to coming up? What looks interesting to you? What are you excited to see? Nothing.
Are you there?
Can you hear me?
I can now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I asked you, I said, what are you looking forward to coming up? What are you excited to see? What do you think is going to be interesting in the next couple of months here?
I'm interested to see when they kind of pull that trigger, like where they're going to put Punk at. I'm assuming Raw. And then where does Randy Orton go and what does he do? I think he had an interaction with Roman. I'm not sure, but that would be an awesome match to have, like at the Rumble or something. That could be really cool.
All right, man. Well, I'm going to have to do some editing in this episode because we have endured some technical difficulties. I will do my best. But this has been episode number 34 of Podfluxxx. Rick, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Motherfluxers, we'll catch you all on the other side. Later.